Well, how about some good news? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Well, I've got some actually. I had a phone call actually right before Shabbat, and it was from Jessica of Yad Leah. Many of you have helped us support this organization in New Jersey, and they raise funds and also accept clothing to be sent to Israel. And so Jessica called me with news that the money had been raised, and there was another container going to be that would be shipping out very soon. I got a short video on that a couple days ago that was about them packing the boxes. You know, right now, I don't know about you, but for me, every day, I just heard from Hanok Young a little while ago, and Hanok is, you know, this is a person. I'm more of an introvert. Okay, the isolation doesn't really bother me a lot. I know that I might, you know, when I'm in a conference or something, I may be perceived a little different, but actually I'm just fine. So, but Hanok, on the other hand, is very much a people person, and this has been a very difficult time for him being there with no tourism, no one. You know, it's tough. So pray for him if you would like. I'll send you his email. You can friend him on Facebook, and just send him an email saying I'm praying for you. It would be great. But Hanok sent a word this morning that Netanyahu has decided they will look at August 1st, I believe it is, as a possibility of opening up tourism. And so just about, you know, just over a month at 45 days from now, there's a possibility that tourism could open up once again. For those of you, if you have an interest in this, we still have our Connect to Israel tour scheduled for November 1st through the 13th. We do have a few slots. There are people. We actually have some folks in Norway, from Norway, that will be joining us on the tour. Go on to the connecttoisrael.org, and you can get some more information on that. And as long as they'll let us on the plane. Okay, that's all it's going to take for me. During this time, it's been difficult. I got to tell you, it's been very, very difficult. Even if I wasn't planning on going, just the fact that I can't is one of those things. That's part of my personality. Don't tell me I can't do something, because that's probably going to mean I'm going to one way or another. You can send your clothing. Well, if I can't go through your closet. Now, in going through your closets, and maybe you've already done this, maybe it's time to do it again. I can just send me an email. I'd be glad to send you the information for Yad Leah. You can go online. I think it's yadleah.org, but I'm not sure. I didn't look at it prior to the program. What would it be? Just think about it. This is clothing that's sent into thrift stores that are all over, many of them in Judea, Samaria. I visited one that is at the base of Elon Moreh, right there at the turnoff going up to Elon Moreh, Itamar. And it's a wonderful work that they are doing, that you can send your clothing. Now, in doing so, remember that Israelis is specifically in Judea and Samaria, dressed a little bit more modest than maybe some folks do in America or other places, especially in Europe. But if you go through your closets, children's clothing is really, really important in this. And you can send that. You can also send donations to help in the boxing up and the cargo, the shipping of all of this. And maybe you can't be there, but maybe your shirt can, okay? It's a great, great thing to be a part of. So thank you so much. I know people that are there that have benefited from this program, and it's very unique what they're doing, and is a great blessing to a lot of people. With that, that's that's the good side of the news. The other side is, wow, every single week, it's like you look back over the events that have happened just in the last few days, and it's like, well, the only way that I can put it, and I don't want to sound like, the so-called prophet of doom, because I personally believe this is the beginning of the beginning. As I said in this month's message, by the way, for those of you that have not received the CD, they're going to be they'll be sent in the mail today. We had a difficulty with the person that duplicates. They ordered CDs, they got DVDs instead, so it kind of backed us up a little bit. Going in the mail today. I've got to go to the post office and pick them up. The beginning of the beginning. There is a point of no return. And I'm probably going to be doing a message on this for the month of July, that I personally believe that we have reached a point of no return. I personally, okay, I know that there's, things can be done outside of the scope of my imagination. The Father can do whatever He desires to do, and that's okay. That's just fine with me. He doesn't need my permission or my help in this. But I see our society as a whole reaching a point that you just really can't go back from. That if you see that as a doomsday thing, then you need to go back and look at the scriptures, because it's about the destination. There is a process that must be embraced to get to that destination. And things are going to happen along the way that are going to be very challenging. This week we look at the Torah portion of Korach. And this is we come off of the last week of the 10 spies coming back with a bad report. Is there some similarities going on right now regarding the bad report? If we're looking at the news today and all we are seeing is gloom and doom, is it also bringing a bad report? Or are we going to draw that line in the sand and side with the two spies, Joshua and Caleb, who did not see the news of the day as a bad thing? They saw it as, this is just the process we're going to be walking through. Okay, they look like giants. So what? They may look like giants from our vantage point, but what about the vantage point of the Almighty? No matter how tall the giant is, from his vantage point, he's looking down at it. So you and I can see what's going on around us, and we can see it as a giant, or we can look at it from his vantage point. That was the difference with David. Goliaths are put in this world to bring forth David's. But a whole army was standing there doing nothing. And here's this young kid that walks in and says, giant? I don't focus on giants. I focus on what the Word says. I focus on what my Elohim says. And who is this that is scoffing here? He is nothing. These people that are out there with the debauchery, as I've said a couple times, if you're looking at what is happening and think that is what is happening, you're going to miss what is happening. What is happening is that the Father is orchestrating things. But we must learn, we must discern the right voices to listen to. Problem with the Hebrews in the wilderness is, once again, they began listening to the wrong voice. Now, this man, Korach, his name is interesting in its spelling. It is a Kof, a Resh, and a Hey. Kof is the is the rising sun. It's, we look at it, the rising sun, his blessings are new every day. It brings on a new day. And so we can look at this his name, the Kof, as something is new is being brought forth. The Resh is known as the letter that is pointing to is the head, or it could be authority. And the Hey is breath. Again, the word authority can come out of that letter. So this is Korach is a new head, breath, authority that is being placed in front of Israel. Will they accept that new voice? That voice that is not tested? Or will they side with the voice that has brought them thus far? Well, for many of the so-called leaders, 250. It says 250 men of Israel, leaders of the community, key members of the council, men of reputation. Who are these? They're the politicians. These are the politicians of Israel. They're the mayors, the governors, these different ones that they decide to they side with Korach, because what has been tested and true? Well, we need something new. We need to do something new. And isn't this to me is a problem that I see all through Scripture and then into society, people today? This is something I've seen in church and in Messianic Hebrew root circles, that he's going to do a new thing. When we say that he is going to do a new thing, are we not also saying that what he has done in the past is just not, well, I'm just not satisfied with what has been? Isaiah talks about that we are to embrace the ancient paths. So this goes over into Christianity, of that Torah is that old thing. We need to do a new thing. We need to have a new breath. We need to have a new authority. And so let's embrace man's doctrines. Now, where did that get these people? We see many that would side with Korach. Moshe gets wind of it. And once again, though Moshe is, in the end, he's a man. He is given to failure at times. But overall, there is a reason that today, still to this day, thousands of years later, it's the Torah of Moshe. A man that was known as a friend unto the Almighty. A man that was entrusted with bringing forth the most incredible foundational doctrine, and not doctrine, but document that has ever been. He was entrusted in bringing forth something that is eternal, that was from the beginning and will be throughout all of eternity, according to Isaiah chapter 66. This man, we see one of his greatest moments here, in that his response. When Moshe heard what was going on in the camp, he fell on his face. he began to intercede for Korach and for this whole group, that maybe there would be there was at least a chance of repentance. I have to tell you, this is an area of Moshe's life that I would strive to, but am far from. Moshe fell on his face. He began to pray. But then he stood up and he issued a challenge to Korach. Now, he could have just lashed out. And I personally, I would have been there cheering him on if he'd have just lashed out at these men, and that were, after all that Moshe has done, he has given his whole life unto these people, and now they're rebelling and turning their back upon him. He had every right to be bitter. He had every right to be angry, but yet he chose mercy. And he chose to leave the decision of what to do with this group up to the Almighty. Now, as the conversation begins to come forth between Moshe and Korach, Korach says some things. He's challenging the authority. There must be authority. There is, and I'm planning, even today, Barry and I are going to be discussing this on Foundations for Life. This concept of authority. There is I hesitate to say, excuse me, a spirit of lawlessness. Because when we say a spirit of lawlessness, it is many times translated into that there's this demonic entity called lawlessness, and he's just kind of go around and affecting everyone. Well, that may be true to a certain extent, but what that does is it takes away the personal responsibility that each of us have to walk under authority. Let's not relegate something to a demonic spirit that we should take personal responsibility for. There must be authority in the camp. Jeremiah 23. I'm not going to go into this anymore, but if you want to, see what we're going to say, tune in to Foundations for Life. And I don't even know exactly where that program, we never know where that program is going to go. We just began and we don't just turn the, hit the record button and aimlessly go forth. We've discussed it, we've prayed about it, we've thought about it, we've studied about it, but the direction, we know the direction, but we're not really sure the twists and turns along the way. Korach comes with his thoughts. He says to Moshe, first of all, you take more upon yourself than you should. Moshe probably would have looked at him and said, you're right. I do have a little bit more of a load on my shoulders than what I would really like. But the problem is there's really no one stepping up to the plate right now to give me a lot of help in this. So if you would like to, instead of rebelling, if you would like to step in here and help out with some of this load, I'd be more than willing to discuss this. The reason that many people today have to take on loads that are far beyond sometimes their natural ability to deal with, is because there's not a lot of people standing in line to help out with that. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Okay, I'll just leave it as that. And then he says, he says, the entire community is holy. The entire community is set apart. Well, there's truth in that, because the entire community was taken out of Mitzrayim, Egypt. They were set apart from Egypt and were set apart from the other communities in the wilderness. Yes, they were set apart in their physical sense, but are they set apart in their spiritual man? Have they taken upon themselves the responsibility to match their spiritual man with their physical man? I would say yes, they're set apart physically, but many of them have not set themselves apart spiritually. And then his last statement here is the community is holy, every one of them, and Adonai is among them. Yes, Hashem he's there, he's among them, but are they joined to him? The whole earth is filled with the knowledge of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. But are people joining themselves to that knowledge? Are people joining themselves to him? He can be in your midst and you rebel against him. That's the truth of what is going on here. And so in verse 13, skip down just a little bit, Moshe went to summon Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, but they replied, "We won't come up. Is it such a mere trifle bringing us up from a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the desert?" Excuse me? How in the world do you come up with a statement that is, there's really only one word to describe this. It's over this shoulder, stupid. Mitzrayim, Egypt, you now want to describe the place that had you in slavery, had you in bondage, and you're looking at that as the land flowing with milk and honey? That's what you're going with? How Moshe did not just come unglued in this thing, I don't know. There's scripture, I think it's in Isaiah, I didn't look it up today, that talks about, don't talk about the good old days. There's a reason why the rear view mirror of the car is smaller than the windshield. It is because, yes, we should take a glance at times of where we came from, never forgetting where we came from. But if you drive a car and all you're doing is focusing on the rear view mirror, guess what's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to be a disaster. You're going to be calling the insurance company and finding out if the thing's totaled. And that's how a lot of people live their lives. Be quite blunt with you. They live their lives looking in the past. So if the focus of your life, I put this on Facebook the other day, if your focus is on where you came from, you will never get where you're going. And that's extremely true with the Hebrews. Kept looking back. Somebody again should have stood up and said, you two don't have a clue what you're talking about. Milk and honey? Do you not remember? And that's the problem with the past, is that when we look back at the past, many times our brain kind of tricks us into forgetting the things that were wrong in the past. Looking forward, embracing where you're going, not embracing where you've been. Well, it goes on. I need to make some time here. It goes on with Korach, and Moshe looks at this group and says, okay, here's the showdown. I'm just going to stand back and I'm going to watch what happens. Okay, if you guys are right and the Almighty is raising up a new head and a new voice in this community, you know, yeah, maybe I can find somewhere to go fishing, even in the wilderness, okay? Maybe I can figure out something to do out here besides leading you people. So he's willing to set it to the side. He's willing to just say, okay, if the Almighty wants to raise up, I'm okay with it. Now he knows the outcome. Somehow he was told the outcome, and he says that if the ground opens up and swallows these people, that you'll now know the spirit of these people. How did he know that? I don't know. And what's the response? You know, the community is standing around going, what? The ground opened. We have never seen that one before. Well, what does the ground opening up have to do with Korach? Why couldn't they just die and, you know, bury him or what? Why is it the ground has to open up? It is a prophetic picture of the voice that they were listening to. They were listening to the voice from Sheol, and that's why it says that the ground opened up and they went down, go down alive to Sheol. See, the voices that you listen to will direct your life. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? So that is why we are told to look up. Because if you're looking up, maybe you're going to listen up. That's a great concept for today. Not listening to that which is going on in this plane. Not listening to that which is going on in the below planes. But listen to what's going on in a heavenly realm. It's something to pray for today. Father, let me hear your voice. I can't discern. And I have to tell you, I look at the news and you see all these things coming in and you're like, I don't know. I don't know exactly. You feel like you're just kind of being torn and blown all over the place, like the ship with no rudder, with no sail, no rudder. It's just out there in the middle of the ocean. But when you listen to the voice from above, the disciples on the Sea of Galilee, they think they're going to die. But the voice from above said, "Peace, be still." We need to be hearing that voice today of peace, be still. Now, you know the story, but then what happens next has always been intriguing to me. Not in a positive sense, by the way. You go down to chapter 17, verse 6, chapter 16, verse 41, depending on, there's difference in numbering right in this area here. And it says, after this had happened, I would hope that if I saw a Korach and 250 leaders die if I saw the earth open up, swallow this bunch up, and then close back, I would hope and pray that my next day would be lived in a way of a little fear and trembling. But what happened? The very next day, the whole community of Israel, not just 250, the whole community of Israel began complaining about Moshe and Aaron. You guys killed all these people. You killed them. Really? When did Moshe have the ability to open up the earth? Where did Aaron get the ability to cause a split in the earth and to cause it to come back together again? I don't think it's Moshe that's giving, trying to take on too much, but these people are trying to give him too much credit for something that he didn't do the very next day. Which means that somewhere that afternoon, evening, around campfires, whatever, I don't know what they had in that day, someone gets the bright idea to start talking about this, and it begins to spread. Grumbling and complaining spread like wildfire. You ever noticed that something positive doesn't really get a lot of traction? Something negative does? Look at the news. This plague, there was a plague. We'll get to that in just a moment. But the plague began for someone saying, hey, I really think, what Moshe and Aaron did today, that was just over the top. I mean, them killing these people, that just wasn't right. I mean, they were just trying to help out. It sounded so good. Where's the people in the camp? They're looking at these people that began this rumor and saying, shut up. That's stupid, again. But yet, they just kind of continue on with this thing. How did they do this without Facebook? I mean, if they'd have had Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, wow, what an amazing thing that would have been. Another subject. Moshe and Aaron, in the midst of the complaining, again, they fell on their face. A plague has begun in the camp. Men are dying. And there's a line. It's like, if you ever watched a dust storm or something like that come in, and it comes in like a line. You can see like this invisible wave that is coming into the camp. And as the front of that wave is there, people are dying. Moshe looks at Aaron. Interesting enough that Moshe does not go get the fire pan. Aaron is the man to do this. So Moshe relegates to the person who has the godly authority. And Moshe says to Aaron, take your fire pan. Put some fire from the altar on it. Lay incense on it and hurry, for the plague has begun. And Aaron, you got to hand it to Aaron, could have looked at Moshe and said, they're getting what they deserve. But Aaron had learned. Aaron had learned from Moshe mercy, forgiveness. He had learned those words that are in last couple weeks' Torah portion behind, that the Almighty is full of grace, full of mercy. As I read through the prophets, I read all the things that are true about this family, this people called Israel. You look at the situation with 43,000 plus denominations, with Judaism, with Messianic Hebrew roots, all of this stuff. You've got to ask yourself a question. If asked to take a fire pan and fire from the coals and go stand in the midst, what would you do? See, Aaron had no guarantee that when he took that fire pan, those coals, he had no guarantee that the plague was going to cease. He had no guarantee that there was going to be a word written later on that said he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. When this man who is somewhere around 80 years old, I mean, imagine that. Somewhere around 80 years old, he's called to do something. And the question has to be asked here. Maybe a question he was asking himself briefly. Can one man make a difference? Can one man or one woman make a difference? The answer in that day is those dying from the plague numbered 14,700, besides those who died in the Korach incident. If it had not been for Aaron, the number would have been in the hundreds of thousands. Can one man make a difference? The answer is yes. Can one man make a difference today? You know, that's a question that you and I are going to have to answer for ourselves. Each of us is given the opportunity to answer that question. Now, what does it mean to make a difference? The answer is not an answer that is written in stone and is, true or is the same with each person. What I do to make a difference, what I'm called to make a difference, may be different than what you're called to make a difference. But you and I must be willing to take a risk to make a difference. The problem is that the people listened to the wrong voices. It's a problem of history, it's a problem of the present, and it will be a problem in the future. I have made a statement years ago that, I've got about 10 minutes to do this. The whole concept of Ephraim and Judah. Ezekiel chapter 37. In that we have two houses, two sticks, in the end they come together. Amazing. May it happen soon in our day. But the message of the two sticks begins in Ezekiel chapter 37 with the vision of the valley of dry bones. That has been attributed to Nazi Germany and what happened to the Jews that were living in Europe in that day. I made a statement many years ago that was, in many people's estimation, probably over the top. And it was this: that Judah, the southern kingdom, has seen their fulfillment of the vision of the valley of dry bones come from Nazi Germany. Ephraim, the northern kingdom, has not seen that. Is it possible that America, now I do not attribute every person that is prophetically of the northern kingdom, I did not say physically, but prophetically from the northern kingdom, I know that there are people in other countries, from New Zealand to Australia, all over. But it seems that there is a great population of people that would be spiritually connected to the northern kingdom that are in the United States. Is it possible that the United States will be Ephraim's Nazi Germany? I'll let you just kind of take that one however you'd like. But what I see today is what I've seen for many years. The same spiritual climate that was happening in the 1930s is happening in the United States, Canada, other countries. I don't know as much about the politics and things of other countries as I do here where I live. But you consider the Hitler Youth. Look at the TV, folks. The vast majority, many are youth. They really have no idea what they're doing. It's a cause that they have no clue about. We see socialism. The Nazis, it was the Socialist Party. We see socialism coming to the forefront, clearer and clearer. The brown shirts. Go back and study these different things. What were the brown shirts? It was about people turning upon their neighbor, turning in their neighbor. The anger, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. Cities set on fire. Businesses, specifically those of Jews. It was all blamed in the end on the Jews. Could it at some point be blamed on those that are following Torah? The problem in this lies that if you look back to Nazi Germany, the church of that day sided with Hitler. It can be said, it can, I think, be proven that Hitler came into power because of the votes of many of the people that called themselves Christian. They were silent. They sided with the wrong voices. Today I watched a couple of different television personalities that are siding with the anger. They're siding with Antifa. They're siding with, in some cities now, these autonomous zones. And don't think that it's not coming to a city close to you. It was, they tried it in Asheville, hour and a half from me. Didn't go through this time. Still tomorrow. Pastors of churches. Now, I mean, take the theology away. Anyone that sides with this stuff, I don't think they've opened a Bible, or at least they haven't read it. But, and this is not Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or whatever, or Purple Cat Society. This is just people that are listening to the wrong voices today. Who are we going to side with? I heard that in some of these autonomous zones, you're having to pay for protection. That's called Sharia law. That's happened in Muslim countries, still happens to this day. These things are happening. But the process of his kingdom coming, we can't short circuit it, folks. We can't short circuit. I'm running out of time. The next section talks about Aaron's budding rod. And it says that, they brought their rod, their staffs, and the next morning that Aaron's rod was budding, but it had shown signs that it budded, it bloomed, and it brought forth fruit, which is a process. In Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 11, the word of Hashem came to me saying, Jeremiah, what do you see? I answered, I see a branch from an almond tree. The Hebrew word is, sorry for the pronunciation, shaked. Then Hashem said to me, you have seen well because I am watching, the word is shoked, to fulfill my word. Stern brings out the two Hebrew words there that are the same root. They're linked. In fact, you look at the words, they're the same spelling if I look at it on Blue Letter Bible, but it's a different word, and one is the word of almond tree, and the other word is watching. He's watching the process. With Aaron's budding rod, it was shown when they saw it the next morning, they could somehow see that the process of it going from a rod to fruit, the process had happened. The Almighty does not short circuit the process. Yes, he's able to speed up the process. That's why many of us pray, may it happen speedily in our day. But the process must be the process. In Matthew 24, Luke 21, we see about the end of days. It talks about the birth pains. Every woman that's ever gone into labor, you want to get to the end. You want to get to the baby. You don't want to go through the process. The process stinks. The process hurts. The process is painful. But the process must happen to bring forth the end result. The destination that we're going through, in order for us to embrace the destination, we have to embrace the process that's going to take us there. Shavua Tov. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem. Hey, never know what's going to happen in this week. But God willing, be right here next Torah portion. Continue the process. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.